Okay, so we just showed you how to remove the armature. Now the next thing you're going to do is you want to remove the front end bell from the cowl spa, that's the side of the fan. Before you do so, you want to put your armature in a vise, just like this. Okay, so I have a vise here, just going to tighten my armature right inside my vise, make sure it's straight, give it a couple pulls, tighten it up there. Okay, just like that. See, there you go. Now, I can either remove the end bell now, or I could remove it later. So I'm going to just leave it on there for now. I'm going to show you. Here we go. We're going to take a bearing puller, as we showed you before in the tool list. Okay, we're going to take that now. Now, before we put the bearing puller on the shaft, what we're going to do is we're going to take this socket. This is a 10mm socket, and we're going to put this over the shaft. What that's going to do is it's going to protect the threads. Now, I'm going to give you an up-close view of this in a few minutes when we do the front side. But for now, we're going to give you a far-away view so you can see it far away. Okay, so there you go. 10mm socket, cover the threads just like that. Now, I'm going to loosen up my bearing puller just like this a few times. Now, you can use a 3-jaw bearing puller or a 2-jaw bearing puller. Some guys have the locking collars like I have. You know, some guys don't. It doesn't make a difference. Whatever you prefer, whatever style. Either way, just use a bearing puller and a 10mm socket. Okay, so I'm going to hold the socket in place, and I'm going to put the jaws of my bearing puller over the bearing. Now, I just need to loosen my puller up a little bit more here. Okay, just like this. Okay, without moving my socket. All right, let me just move my socket out of the way here quick. Adjust my bearing puller. Now, there you go. So my bearing puller is adjusted. Just like that. And I'm going to put my socket on here. I just got to loosen my center shaft for a second there, okay, just like this, okay, so take this off, now I'm ready to go. I got everything adjusted there. Socket, once I put the socket on there with the square side facing out, okay, now I'm going to take my jaws, slip them all the way to my bearing just like that, okay, and then I'll put the center of my puller inside that socket, and then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten the shaft of my puller here, see the center stem, I'm going to tighten that a little bit until basically one of the jaws is touching the back of the bearing. Then once I do that, I'm just going to tighten this. Now, if you don't have this style puller, you won't have to go through all this. You might just have a quick 3-jaw. You clamp it on, you hold it, and you're good to go. All right, but in this case, we're just going to tighten this outed crank, and then I'm going to tighten the center shaft. Now, this style puller, I can either turn it like this and start taking the bearing off like this, right? So this will start taking my bearing off, or, like I said, that will take my bearing off, or what I can do is I can use a wrench. Okay, let me just get this stand out of the way. I can use a wrench, and I can take an open-end wrench, and I can start pulling the bearing off just like this, okay? And once I do so, that loosens my bearing up. So here we go. We're just going to use this open-end wrench, and now you can see the bearing is starting to come off, and I'm going to give you a closer look of this bearing coming off.